Mind Games by Reese. Of a gun shattering across the silent snow. Fields of blustering white powder linger through Norway, the shatter echoing throughout the empty landscape, untouched since the mass slumber. Most of the world is now in the mighty grasp of a digital paradise called Valhalla. I look out onto the snowy fields with my hunting rifle scope, my first bullet out of 11 missing the mark. Scanning the horizon of once perfectly trimmed hedges, they are now scraggly and overgrown. They crawl through the snow like vines creeping up a sycamore tree. The bushes begin to rustle, although 20 metres away the sound can be heard. Like an owl hearing its prey, I move along the line of hedgerow. The foliage and branches blurring through my scope, I stop. The hedge shimmies slightly before stopping back to its quiet slumber. I pause in this part of the hedgerow, the silence creating an eerie tension that gets whisked away by a soft breeze that tumbles down the hillock that I lie upon. My heartbeat is starting to become noticeable against the ground. I give a deep inhale from my nose, steadying my scope as I remain on the hedgerow. I feel my eyes zooming in onto the curling bare vines. I notice every branch, brown, light brown, sharp, spiky, thistle, curved. Snap! A twig breaks. I quickly pan my scope over to the bustling branches, hustling around like a crowded room, but the thing has disappeared. It's fast, I think to myself. I let out an exhale. I've been holding on for much too long. My stomach begins to rumble as the strips of rabbit jerky I had at lunch leaves much to be desired. The light now dimming from the winter day, with still no sign of movement, I begin to scan along the hedgerow again, searching for this elusive creature. A few metres down I see the snow change from pure white untouched field to a pale grey glitch amongst the snow. My vision corrects itself to see a hare rapidly breathing as it pulsates with every quick heartbeat it has. My breath swirls along the winter breeze and begins to follow the bullet as it leaves the chamber, and the grey hair is replaced by white powder. It falls back into the curling brown vines, lifeless. Crumpling along the snow, the physical shuddering in my boot compressing the powder into a perfectly formed boot print. The winter of North Norway is now more extreme than ever, all the rain hurling through the southern lands, whirling up to the mountainous north, crumbling into snow. This land is unprofitable, for the companies grasping for land to produce mulch, an amalgamation of protein and fibre from soya beans, spinach and carbohydrates from wheat. Although wheat is being replaced by a synthetic replacement, the mulch is whizzed up and sucked in through tubes straight to the slumbering Valhallians. Translated into their favourite burger or tea by senses, pulsating taste buds and smells for you to really experience every morsel. You get used to it, my mother said to me after she had just finished her trial period. She was sitting in the hospital bed, her muscles atrophied from not moving for a week in the tub. "You're lucky you're going to Valhalla," my mum says. "I miss it." She sits up on the hospital bed, the vital machine beeping away in the background as a tube filtering electrolytes pushes into her blood system. It's bright and depressing to be back in a hospital, I think. Valhalla, a questioner naming the virtual world. The warriors of Earth are leaving to find a better future, my mum says, looking off to the ceiling, mesmerised by the thoughts that come to her. Well, that's what the instructor said. She crashes down to the reality, looking towards me, a content look on her face. I scoff at her wistful positivity. "You can't be serious." My voice raised. I see my mum look at me with a frown, my face reddening with frustration. "Don't raise your voice with me, Kodri," she says with calm. The drugs they are pumping into her must be soothing her usual anger. She lets out a peaceful exhale. "I must sleep, Kodri. We can talk about this later." I can't find a rebuttal, which makes my face redden with even more anger that seethes through me. I grip my teeth and begin punching my knees in frustration. The teenage emotions struggle to hold back my anger and sadness as I see my mum whisk away without a care in this world. I begin to feel the burn and sting like 1,000 needles piercing my thighs, my pulse thrumming through my head. Crunch of a twig snaps me out of my reminiscing. I've reached the hedgerow. The hare lies on the sheltered foliage underneath the hedge. The hare spasms as it breathes, low and slow, struggling to stay alive. Blood oozes from the gun wound, leaving a hole piercing through the top of its back. The scene wriggles down into my brain like the cold wind stinging my spine. My heart sinks at the helpless hare breathing quickly, its eyes wide and panicked, staring down its killer. The thought drips a tear down my frozen cheek. My legs give way, the weight of my body feeling 5 times heavier. I begin whining out into the snow-filled emptiness. I regain a meagre amount of composure and stand back up using the gun as a walking stick. The hare still breathes in a panicked haste. I hear whispering round me, travelling through the wind like a phantom. I look at the hare, its heart is visible, still beating it to life. The voice is coming from the hare. It has a raspy, dry voice like life is being sucked away. I shake my confused, sleep-deprived brain. I'm going crazy, I think. The hare responds, trying to push its way back through to me. I well up again, feeling like a tiny girl in such a cruel world. I pull up the gun, get the hare in my sights, and let the cruelty take over. Valhalla, the over-enthusiastic man says in a whispered tone, settling over the group like the crescendo of a ghost tale. I sit amongst a group of multi-aged victims to this arm-flailing slideshow. The beam of light from the projector is the only thing lighting the small seated red room. You are the warriors of the new world, a brave group testing these machines, taking you to a universe that is yours to explore, change, and... He holds for emphasis, hands sinking down from the gesticulation. Become a fat, unmovable slab of meat. I try to finish his sentence in my head. Enjoy! His arms reach up again, and he achieves a little jump of excitement. I let out a deep exhale and bury my head in my hands, wishing to be as far away from this circus as possible. Now come this way, over-enthusiastic man says as his slideshow comes to the end. The lights of the room take over the projector beam and reveal the cheap carpet that our feet are planted on. The over-enthusiastic man, ignoring his badge that reads Bill, continues, as we introduce you to your trial machines and prepare you for the most exciting week of your life. He flails his arms around and marches out, expecting everyone to follow suit. I leave everyone to get up and trundle out after him, and I take up residence as far away from his energy as humanly possible. We bumble our way through the low-lit corridors, a red neon light guiding us through. I feel like we're about to play a game of Laser Quest. Instead of the guns and armor lining the hallway, there are windows leaking out a warm light, highlighting the amazing engineering invention of the Valhalla machines and the prophetic inventor Clarence. The first window highlights the early stages of the company. Clarence stands over the glorified gaming chair with a sharp jawline, combed over blonde hair, gelled and puffed to perfection, and bright blue eyes that are emphasized by a beaming light flashing down from the heavens. A mechanical voice beeps through, reverbing around the hallway.
Clarence began with humble beginnings,
he says to the enamored group. They stop and stare, some smush their faces to the screen like they're trying to find monkeys in a zoo.
Clarence and his trusted partner Jim created the first machine known as Faust in 2027 in a small flat in San Francisco.
Large flat in Silicon Valley. I amend its words in my mind.
This prototype granted them funding from the United States government to form the company Clear in 2030 and produce on mass scale the new future for humanity.
The scene disappears from the window as the lights fade out and the window to our left begins to beam away. Over-enthusiastic man hurries us over with his hands, flailing against the light as the machine voice continues.
In 2032, the second prototype was formed, Hilda, named after Clarence's grandmother.
I trundled towards the brightly lit scene behind the gawking group in front.
This machine sported human beings for 3 days unattended by humans. Jim was the first to make the trip to Valhalla through Hilda in 2031.
The scene shows Clarence now brandishing a brown beard with dashes of ginger sprinkled through. He stands erect over the glorified gaming chair as Jim lies unconscious. Tubes spiral away from Jim into a life support machine. It pumps in the liquids needed for a successful crossover. Clarence salutes to Jim. A face of honour lies upon him as he looks down towards his partner.
Jim was successful in his first mission, shaking hands with a man named Torbjorn in the mountainous town of Clarenstead. Even drinking and eating, he said it was the best fish pie he's ever eaten.
I scoff at this machine's remarks. What a load of bullshit. I think to myself as the lights dim and the next final scene lights up to the left. The machine voice carries on.
In 2040, after suffering his loss of his close friend and trusty business partner Jim in 2035, Clarence pushed forward, creating the third and final version. James was created.
I make it to the window and see Clarence bald, his beard sporting new greys that poke out of his ginger beard. He is sitting in the machine, a mask covering his mouth. He salutes to the window. There is a perfectly placed picture of Jim placed on top of the integrated life support machine. Jim is also saluting towards us from the picture.
In 2042, after many tests and trials, Clarence makes the transition fully into Valhalla, where you trusty soldiers will be venturing to today. If you are incredibly lucky, you can meet Clarence in the virtual flesh, although he is elusive.
A few hushed whispers and gasps cross through the group as the mention of meeting the elusive Silicon Valley billionaire sends them into a withheld joy.
Now on to the next part of history, brave heroes of humanity, Godspeed and good luck.
A few claps precede the machine's roaring speech. Over-enthusiastic man speaks as the light dims on the final window. This way, please. His voice directs us to look over at the wall in front of us. There is a black door that is only noticeable by the metal door handle, and to the left a sign that reads, "Welcome to the New World." He puts his hand on the door handle and turns around to look at us. He becomes serious, his eyes squinting. So here we are. He holds for a dramatic pause. The end of the old world and the beginning of a new. The over-enthusiastic man continues, a smile gleaming across him. Some would say he looks excited, some would say maniacal. Are you ready to journey to another world? He questions the group. A few hushed yeses come from excited youngsters and elderly people. I can't hear you, he says, a loudness protruding through the timid crowd. Yes. The two people in front of me shout or whisper out a confirmation. The over-enthusiastic man's smile is beaming now. As the energy and dramatic tension is at its climactic peak, he pushes down the door handle and opens up the group to the new world. The bright light of the new world blinds me, artificial and stark. It shines through the dark neon hallways we were brought from. Once my eyes adjust and we shuffle through following Mr. Enthusiastic, I see a white hospital spick and span devoid of character. The new world is dull, I think to myself. I see a few scientists and nurses walk through the hallway in front of us. Welcome to the gateway, Mr. Enthusiastic says as he looks out to the hospital environment like a proud father, his arms wide out like wings. I look to the left and right of us. I spot the giant glass vessels with coiling tubes spiralling away from the clear water that lies at the bottom of the tubs. The coils lead to the life support machines that lie dormant. 12 machines, 6 to the left and 6 to the right. You will be taken to your designated Valhalla transportation capsules by these fine gateway professors. M.E., Mr. Enthusiastic, points to the left side of him, following his gesture. I spot 2 silver shining doors that get pushed open, revealing 12 gateway professors. chatting to each other, looking down at clipboards, and all brimming with immaculate smiles and faces. Not a hair nor spot out of place, like dolls being paraded around by a child. They strut over to Emmy. They begin waving, smiling, even a few chuckles venture forth from the professors to our ragtag crew. Some people from our group wave back. Emmy looks over to me. I can't help but avert my eyes, but it's to no avail. He calls me over. Are you ready, Miss Williamson? I feel the blood begin brewing to my face, the red forming in my cheeks. Mr. Enthusiastic carries on, speaking as I walk towards him. This young man will take you to your Valhalla transportation. I look at this man, who steps forward to greet me. He has sleek black hair and immaculate youthful skin. His smile is timid and not as beaming as the other staff that look at me with cold, terrifying grins. I see his name badge. Dennis is typed across it. Right this way, miss, he says in his Yankee accent. He slides to my right side and gestures for me to walk forward as I reach him. He walks to the side of me as we walk to the end of the first bed. He leads me to the right side of the room. This your first day on the job, Dennis? No, this is my 30th day. We continue to amble towards the final glass capsule. I look to the left and notice the wall is hazed. One-way mirror. A thought shudders my core. I imagine the monitoring scientists and high-ranking executives checking on their test patients as we lie vulnerable in a bath. I take a deep breath, close my eyes, and push that thought down as far as I can without causing an aneurysm. I try to think this is for my mum, to try and forget that horrible thought. It doesn't quite work though, so I begin asking Dennis, have you? I pause, trying to establish a connection with the present. Have you been into the new world? Yes, I have. His voice is more comfortable than before. What's it like? It's incredible. You don't realise you are in the virtual world. It truly is like going to a different world. Really? My face contorting into an embarrassing grimace. It's like the real world, only better. His voice whispered in the dramatic Emmy way, but now a sarcastic tone ruminating around. Here we are. Dennis cuts through the awkward silence as we reach the final machine. He swivels to the side and gestures for me to move up to the capsule. As I reach the side, I glance across its transparent glass. Not affected by thumbprints nor dust, it seems invincible against the battle of time. The wires and tubes spiral from the bottom of the capsule to the life support machine like snakes crawling from stagnant water. Dennis stands opposite me, checking and looking over the technology. He begins to look at his clipboard that he holds with his left hand. Now you sign the waiver. He jots on the paper with a pen in his right hand that he grabbed from his large white coat. We have your emergency contact, your date of birth and your blood type. I wish that was me joking in my own head, but they really did want my blood type. Luckily, they didn't want my PIN number. And finally, your name and address, so you're all good to go. He hits the clipboard with his pen. Please, Miss Williamson, go behind that curtain. He points over to the wall away from the one-way mirror. There are blue paper curtains that circle around into a makeshift cubicle. In there you'll find a jumpsuit for you to get changed into, and then you'll begin your transition. I walk over into the tiny cubicle and see the jumpsuit. It's dark navy branded with the company's logo. The logo is a large egg white C at the top of the jumpsuit. Then in the middle of the C is a white flower. Below the logo is written the company name, Clear. I shimmy off my clothes and brandish the loose-fitting jumpsuit. They're expecting a bit of weight gain. I make my way to Dennis and a shiver runs down my spine. As I see Emmy join Dennis, he waves over to me, his ever-present grin rippling through me like a cold breeze. Perfect, Miss Williamson, Emmy says as he clasps his hands together, a bead of sweat falling from him. Now please walk up those steps and enter the vessel. He holds out his hand, but I disregard it. A sense of boredom comes from me, wanting to get this done with. I go up the stairs and get into the liquid. The liquid is lukewarm. As soon as the initial feeling of water is gone, it feels like I'm stepping into nothing. Perfect, Dennis says. I feel like an unimpressed child ready for bath time. You're a natural, he says. A sly grin pops up on Dennis's face. I glare at him. Dennis and Emmy perform a well-orchestrated routine of passing over tubes and plugs. Dennis plugs wires and tubes into the life support machine. He He then turns it on, which whizzes up its inbuilt fans. The same clear logo fades into the black screen as it boots up. Dennis hands over to Emmy a mask. Emmy comes over to me and gestures for me to put it on. I quickly push over the elastic band over my hair and place the mask over my mouth. Thank you, Miss Williamson. Your mother was also very lovely to work with. Internal screams populate my brain. How can you compare me to my mum? I'm not my mum. Dennis then receives an injection needle filled with a clear liquid. This is just an anaesthetic to get you under initially for us to begin transportation. Now please hold out your right arm, miss. I reach my arm to Dennis, who takes the needle and begins piercing my skin. Emmy holds on to my left arm. He grimaces and hisses in empathy. He makes me question why I'm not feeling agonizing pain. You can look away if you're squeamish, Kodri. Emmy looks away after he finishes his sentence, still massaging my arm. I feel a slight sting and the needle is out. You did amazing, Kodri. Now please, you must move on to the next stage. Please lie back in the water and we'll move on. Emmy puts his hand on my forehead. I begin to feel him press down, forcing my head back. I begin squirming uncomfortably. I say loudly, a little too loudly. Emmy stops. I'll do it, thank you. I swallow some saliva down, mustering up the extroverted confidence that's left in me. Bill. The name sounds wrong in my mind and in my voice, but Bill removes his hand from my forehead and mouths, sorry. Then he moves away from my tank and begins casting his voice over the room like a piercing blanket. Right now, guys, this room's going to become pitch black shortly and a lovely woman will begin to speak to you. His voice is too confronting and forceful for such a job. I lie down fully, letting my hair begin to dampen in the lukewarm water. Dennis is in my peripheral vision, doing his final checks on the machine, while Bill carries on his commanding speech. She will begin speaking through to you in the Valhalla transitioning machine. Do not be alarmed. He increases his volume, sounding like an alarm himself. Her voice is coming through the nifty inbuilt water speakers. She will guide you through transitioning into Valhalla. He breathes in deeply through his mouth, sucking out all the comfort in the room. So please relax. He exhales out those final words, letting us finally take a deep breath from his loud personality. Bill takes another deep inhale through his nose, buzzing around the silence like a wasp. In through the nose, he reaches the pinnacle and gives us a hand swirl, ushering people to join in with his breathing exercise. And out through the mouth, he exhales, letting out all the wasps. I want to hear some breathing, guys, he shouts out large and sharp. I breathe in as loud and as forcefully as I can, snorting up the last remaining breaths. Breathe in. Bill goes back to his somewhat calming voice, and out through the mouth. I push out all the air from my lungs. It feels comforting as I begin to soften into the lukewarm water, floating around like a duck in a pond. I allow my head to completely fall back onto the glass wall of the tub. The ceiling is made of squares of cheap styrofoam sheets with bumps and grooves puzzling around the plastic slats that hold them steady. Now, Bill is calming, almost whispering in his voice. 3 more inhales and exhales and your transitioning will proceed. I breathe in and out through my nose, the sound of other people breathing slowly flowing away from me, and I get into a focused quiet. I breathe in and out. My body begins to feel relaxed. My arms still grasping onto the bars now falling along the tub. They touch the water delicately and sink to my waist. In and out. The light slowly dims from the room and I am left without any sign or shadow of the room around me.
Hello.
A soothing woman's voice warms in my ear. It's not piercing or tinny, but close. It caresses me.
My name is Cassandra, and I'll be guiding you through to the new world today.
She pauses, letting my eyes close, the eye muscles feeling heavy. Cassandra breathes in and out before continuing.
I want you to count down from 10 to 1 in your mind for me, please, and relax every bone and muscle in your body. Let them fall around you like stones in a lake, slowly tumbling down to the bottom. 10.
She starts me off and then remains silent as I lie, feeling dizzy and confused in the darkness. 9. I can't feel any part of my arms or legs. They feel like they aren't there anymore. 8. I wonder if this is what it's like to die. 7. The room which once felt cold closed around me, the emptiness being replaced with warmth, like a fire that finally gets through to my core. 6. My mum now sits beside me in my bed, the stars on the ceiling dazzling across my eyelids as they close and open. I'm unable to stay awake. 5. My mum begins to tuck me in, pushing up the duvet, curling it around my body. 4. She stands up and I hear her soft feet hitting the carpet that covers the room. 3. I want you to say in your mind, I let you in. The warm woman comes through my dreaming. 2. My mum closed the door, leaving me and the stars alone to journey through the dream space. 1. I let you in.